All right, everybody, let's dive right in. We've got a hurricane brewing in the Atlantic, and this thing's kicking up a fuss. Yeah, the forecast has some pretty intense predictions.
Definitely one to watch.
And I know you're listening because you want to be prepared.
Right.
Without getting caught up in all the news frenzy, one of the things that's really caught our eye is this could be the 4th U.S. landfall for a hurricane this year. To give you an idea just how unusual that is, 2005, the year of Hurricane Katrina, only had 4.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
So we've got our expert here to help us break down what's going on and what it all means, especially if you're in a potentially vulnerable area. So multiple hurricane landfalls in one season. What makes that so significant?
Well, think about it this way. Every time a hurricane hits, you need a huge response, right? Cleanup crews, emergency responders, supplies for rebuilding, all that. Trying to mobilize those resources multiple times in one season, that puts a strain on everything. And of course, coastal communities get hit with these economic and environmental impacts again and again. It's hard to recover.
Yeah, you've really got to wonder about the cumulative effect. And this year, they're already saying it could be a wild hurricane season with predictions of up to 24 named storms. And, I mean, we're looking at the satellite imagery here, and the Atlantic's lit up like a firecracker.
It's active out there.
Gives me flashbacks to those spaghetti models, you know? But before we get into those, can you explain why this season is so much more active? What's going on here?
You know, it's like a recipe, right? And the main ingredient for an intense hurricane season is warmer ocean temperatures. Warmer water means more evaporation, more moisture in the air. That extra moisture, that's like high-octane fuel for a hurricane. Makes them more powerful, longer lasting, and unfortunately climate change is making those warm ocean temperatures more common.
So it's like we're adding fuel to the fire, literally. Now, this latest hurricane we're watching, it's got some impressive stats.
Yeah, it's shaping up to be a big one.
They're talking about potential waves of 25 to 30 feet. That's not just a day at the beach anymore.
No, definitely not.
Can you talk about the kind of impact those waves would have when they hit the coast?
Well, what you're talking about is storm surge, and that's that wall of water that builds up during a hurricane and slams into the coast. It's one of the most destructive forces out there, sometimes even more dangerous than the wind itself.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Imagine the force of those waves hitting buildings, eroding coastlines, flooding entire areas. The damage is incredible.
Wow. That puts it into perspective. Now, I know folks at home are probably seeing those maps too, you know, the hurricane tracks, all those lines. It's enough to make anyone nervous, honestly. So how should people interpret those? What do they really tell us?
Those spaghetti models, yeah, they can look a little intimidating, but remember, forecasting always has uncertainty baked in. Those lines are just showing us the range of possibilities. Don't get too hung up on any one squiggle. Focus on that official forecast cone and stick to trusted sources like the National Hurricane Center.
Solid advice. Okay, so to wrap things up here, it sounds as we're in for a very active and potentially very dangerous hurricane season, one that could have some lasting consequences.
Absolutely.
Especially for those in vulnerable coastal communities.
And that brings up such a crucial point, you know. How do we become more resilient as these hurricane seasons become more intense? What steps can you take to be prepared? Something to think about.
Always good to be prepared. That's it for today's deep dive, but we'll keep you updated as this situation develops. Until then, stay safe out there, everybody.